shoes and walk among the groups of two. It's not our deal, it's just how we feel. It's a shame we're easily amused. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. Cast a stone and hit a hardcore view. Catchphrase of the day is that it's true. There's no coffee talk and only one way to please. It's a shame what you do moves me. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. Yeah, I'm not looking for a windswept view. Our change has changed. Nothing's new. Right heart, new song. That blues. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. If I could know what would do wrong, I'd take this smile. The only cure for this forward motion is this smile. The only cure for this forward motion is this smile. The only cure for this forward motion.
Hey, everybody. How are you? Happy Eclipse Day. I hope you guys have had a wonderful day. Welcome to Rebellious 1776. My name is Lynn Hurley, and I am here with you to critique, criticize, and fact check. Very important. Our nation's politicians in real time. We love watching a congressional hearing around here because we want to know just what those sneaky little politicians are saying, and more importantly, what they're doing with our tax dollars. Who doesn't want to know that? It's important to know that. So if you know someone else who would like to know that information, and again, who wouldn't, please feel free to share the love and share the show with them. And then sit back, grab yourself a snack and a drink. I was combining sit and snack. Snit back with a drink. And if you're watching live, please join us in the chat. We always have a fun time talking about our nation's finest in action. How are you guys? So excited to see you. Did you have a wonderful weekend? Hi, XJ. Love you too. How's it going? Did you guys have a good day? Did everybody get to go out and see the eclipse? That was amazing. It was so cool. So cool. Um, so those of you who were able to see it, we were in the path of totality and it was unbelievable. Those of you that were as well, or even if it wasn't, a total eclipse, I hope you got a chance to go out and see it. The chickens, you guys, the chickens, they just like froze. They didn't know what to do. Once it hit totality, I was like, "What are the chickens doing?" Because we were out in the back, which is where they are, and they they just were like I took a short video. It looks like a still picture because the chickens just didn't move. They frozen in place. It reminds me of that photo, the one you see that looks like the airplane, or it's like a video. Sorry, it looks like the airplane is like just hanging there in the sky. It's not, it's an optical illusion, but that's what my chickens looked like. They just looked like they were frozen in place. It was so funny. Didn't want to damage your eyes. I stayed inside. Oh, really, Snoop? Oh, well, you can look at it with your eyes during totality. Obviously, up until that point, you can't. But you can look at it with your bare eyes with totality. You just have to look away the moment the sun starts coming back. But yeah, it was so funny. It was so funny. They were just like frozen in place. They were like the whole time for the whole like 3 minutes or whatever it was. It was so funny. Oh my gosh. So today, Congress is back in session, guys. They're back. Woo woo. Let me check. Last I looked, they hadn't started the hearing yet. And you know what I did? Dang it. Hold on a second. Let me unmute it so we can hear it when it does start. Hold on. Bear with me for just a second, guys, because I think when I started, instead of pulling myself up, which I wanted to do, nope, that's not the one. There we go. I accidentally got rid of saying they'll begin shortly, which they've been saying for a couple of minutes. So we'll just wait and see. I'll take it down for now. So today we're going to be watching a hearing, and this is the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. And let me see what I can read. So it's talking about, we watched another hearing about Biden's LNG, the liquid natural gas export ban. And so this is another one talking about that. I think the one that we watched it last time, I can't remember what committee it was. I want to say it was a different committee than this one. But this one's entitled Biden's LNG Export Ban, How Rush to Green Politics Hurts Local Communities and U.S. Energy Security. And it's going to examine Biden administration's ban on issuing permits. Now, the Democrats were all claiming it's a pause. It's not a ban. To export liquefied natural gas and the negative implications of this decision on local economies, jobs, and educational opportunities. And so, yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit today. Yeah, okay, I do. I just wanted to double check. I didn't trust myself after getting rid of it. So it's safe inside Costco at the time of the apocalypse. So you missed the whole thing inside Costco. Oh, that stinks. It was really, really cool. It was really cool. They were chemtrailing pretty heavy, but I got a glimpse of her. Hold this up.
We'll go ahead and start with opening
Let me
statements.
know how the
and
sound
I'll
is too,
recognize myself
guys.
for 5 minutes. Thank you all for being here today in Port Arthur, Texas, for a field hearing on the Energy, Climate, and Grid Security Subcommittee titled Biden's LNG Export Ban, How Rush to Green Politics Hurts Local Communities and U.S. Energy Security. Today, we'll hear from witnesses in the communities that support the United States liquefied natural gas, or LNG, industry. The U.S. is blessed with tremendous natural resources and an entrepreneurial spirit required to harness these resources and propel the United States to global energy dominance. America is the #1 producer and exporter of liquefied natural gas in the world. We also reduce emissions more than any other nation, both here at home and abroad. We have communities like the one here in Port Arthur to thank for this success. LNG exports strengthen energy security, decrease energy prices here at home, support and create U.S. jobs, and help to lower emissions globally. U.S. LNG exports could support up to 452,000 additional American jobs and add up to $73 billion to the United States economy by 2040. They can also create billions of dollars of revenue for the federal, state, and local governments. Despite the many benefits of LNG exports, President Biden has ignored both reality and science to heed the calls of his radical environmental base. As we all are well aware, in January of this year, President Biden issued an indefinite ban on the issuance of LNG export permits to non-free trade agreement countries while it conducts a review to consider the climate impacts of natural gas. The administration indicated no endpoint or timeline to its decision, which it announced via a press conference and press release. This rash decision by the Biden administration will have nationwide impacts, as it will be detrimental to jobs and to economic development in communities like this one that support the U.S. LNG industry. It threatens good-paying American jobs across the entire economy, from gas production to manufacturing and even those in restaurant and hospitality jobs. The states most impacted are already feeling the pain due to the uncertainty this announcement has created. This uncertainty will chill investment, discourage planned investment in natural gas production, and have lasting impacts on thriving energy industry here in Texas. It is clear this decision is politically driven and reflective of an administration that continues to put the priorities of the environmentalists over the interest of the American people. In addition to harming our domestic energy industry, President Biden's LNG export ban is a gift to Vladimir Putin. Global demand for gas is expected to increase 46% by 2050, and our European and Asian allies who want to do business with the United States will look to Qatar, Russia, Iran, and other adversaries of the United States to meet their growing energy needs. The Biden administration and many House Democrats claim to support Ukraine, yet they promote an LNG export ban which bolsters Putin's stranglehold over Ukraine. Republicans in the House of Representatives recognize the urgency of reversing this ban. We recently passed H.R. 7176, the Unlocking Our Domestic LNG Potential Act. This would reverse Biden administration's export ban and would remove all Department of Energy restrictions on the import and export of natural gas. Export facilities would still have to receive certification from FERC, but DOE would no longer be able to halt exports like the Biden administration did for political gain. Port Arthur and the folks here today are the backbone of the American energy industry. It is a major energy hub, home to many oil and gas facilities, including several LNG export terminals. You all are who we have to thank when we turn our lights on, start our engines, and blast our AC in the hot summer months or the heat and the cold winter days. You are who the Biden administration should have consulted with prior to his decision. So I'm glad you're here today and you're attending this hearing, and we look forward to hearing from our witnesses and you sharing your perspectives on the benefit of U.S. LNG. Now, y'all can probably understand me. I'm from South Carolina, but I want you to know I'm an honorary Texan. Governor Abbott made me an honorary Texan, so it's glad to be in my adopted home. So I'll now recognize as the designee of the ranking member, the gentlelady from here in Houston, Texas, Ms. Fletcher, for 5 minutes for her opening statement.
Well, thank you, Chairman Duncan, and thank you for bringing us here to see and hear more about this important topic today. And I thank Mr. Weber for hosting us in the 14th Congressional District. Today's hearing is an important opportunity to learn about LNG exports and the role that LNG plays in our country's present and future, from our local communities to the global community, and the opportunities and challenges that are before us today. Today has been a collaborative and useful one, and I look forward to today's hearing as an opportunity for us all to learn more. And I'm sure there will be many areas of agreement and beneficial ideas for action. I do, however, want to note my disagreement with the title of the hearing. January's announcement from the Biden administration is not an export ban. LNG exports continue and will continue each day. The administration announced a temporary pause on the approval of export permits at the Department of Energy while it reviews and updates its public interest determination process. Facilities with existing permits will continue to operate and fill orders. That includes facilities that are under construction and several that have not even begun construction. Proposed projects, which go through a multi-step process, will continue to advance through FERC for the siting, construction, and operation of facilities. And it is with that in mind that I think today's hearing can and should be instructive. The Department of Energy's determination of public interest until today has evaluated environmental impacts and cost impacts for consumers. DOE last updated its environmental and cost analysis more than 5 years ago, when LNG exports were less than half of what they are today. It is not unreasonable for the DOE to take an objective look at export applications with the most comprehensive, up-to-date analysis of the economic, environmental, and national security considerations of public interest. It is not the same thing as a ban on exports. That said, I know that the pause has caused concern and uncertainty for people, for projects, for communities, and for companies. So our hearing today is an important opportunity for us to participate in the process and fact gathering. This field hearing is an opportunity to address the principal issue areas that I think have been raised and that the pause is seeking to address. The 3 C's, climate, cost, and communities, with a particular emphasis on communities here today. Multiple administrations of both parties have found that exporting LNG is in the public interest. Cleaner American natural gas is more competitive on the world market, and it is an important tool in addressing climate change. But that does not mean that our work to reduce emissions and safeguard communities is complete. Communities' neighboring facilities need to be confident that their needs and concerns are addressed in the planning process. It was only in 2016 that the first LNG export terminal in the lower 48 states began exporting natural gas. Since then, in just 8 years, the United States has become the world's top exporter of natural gas. The growth that we've seen from the shale revolution has powered our economy here in Texas and across the country and has increased our national security. Today, under the Biden administration, the United States is producing more crude oil than any other country at any point in history. 3 months ago, U.S. natural gas production reached an all-time high. Record energy growth has continued under this administration. LNG exports help create a future marked by affordable, accessible, reliable, and sustainable energy that promotes global stability. By involving stakeholders and hearing about the challenges and opportunities for improvement, we can address concerns and move into our energy future with confidence together. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today and working with our partners in the federal government to develop sound energy policy that takes into account what we are learning today and engages stakeholders throughout the process. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
How many times did she say pause during that?
Recognize the gentleman from here in Houston, Texas area, your congressman, and he's the designee of the full committee chair, Chair Rogers. Mr. Weber, for 5 minutes for opening statement.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'll just ask, it's great to be back in Southeast Texas. So if y'all don't mind me a point of personal privilege, we appreciate the subcommittee chair, Jeff, for coming up here and doing this, holding this hearing. Would y'all give him a hand, please, Jeff Duncan? You bet. And we appreciate Ms. Fletcher coming from what she calls the energy corridor of Houston, but she's got the bean counters and the buildings and the executives. We've got the people down here in Southeast Texas, Rennie, making it happen right here, salt of the earth. So thank you for what y'all do. And thank you, Chairman Duncan, and the whole Energy and Commerce staff, by the way, and my team, quite frankly. And by the way, I've got Janet Brown here. Y'all give her a hand. I've got Blake Hopper. Give him a hand. Arthur.
Everybody.
Yes, I give him a hand. There's Jared. And I saw Dodie. Where are you, Dodie Armstrong? Right, give her a hand. So we work for y'all. We never forget that. And listen, if y'all ever have a problem, you can call the cell phone and I'll give it to you. It's Dodie's. So no. I'm just kidding. Listen, I want to say that we all absolutely know how important this field hearing is today. It's about the positive impacts that LNG facilities play in a community like Port Arthur. And y'all know the history of Port Arthur. Y'all live here, you work here, you play here, you go to church here. It's about the positive impacts that LNG can play, have been playing. And I have to agree with our chairman, with all due respect to our the lovely lady from Houston, that President Biden's is going to have an impact, his hold, a ripple effect through Southeast Texas, our great district. Everyone who has gathered here today undoubtedly knows how critical LNG is, not just to our country, not just to our state, but to Southeast Texas specifically. It is very, very critical. And you know, because communities, families are collecting a paycheck and putting food on the table. It is also critical, LNG chemical facilities are, for small business owners in our community. It is critical, the mayor knows this, for the development of our great city of Port Arthur. It is critical as the next generation that's currently studying right here at Lamar State University, right, is learning all there is to know about being operators and working at the plants. They can have a career in the LNG industry. And guess what? These critical investments might disappear if the ban remains in place and goes on too long. So just a few miles away from here is the home of Port Arthur LNG, Golden Pass LNG, both of which provide, as y'all know, thousands of direct jobs and billions of dollars back into our great community. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Cheniere LNG, a stone's throw across the border in that other foreign country, Louisiana, or what we call East Texas, Larry, which also employs Texans. My district, District 14, your district, by the way, is also home to Freeport LNG, located in Missouri County, where these investments likewise benefit the community there. Joe Biden's ban directly jeopardizes Port Arthur's LNG, which broke ground on construction last month. They have been fully approved for their phase one project. Lizzie is correct about that. And they will hire upwards of 6,000 jobs with more than 100 contracts with vendors, local vendors, for construction valued at $180 million. When the ban was announced, they were actually in process of applying for the permits and approvals for phase two. Now they're not sure they can continue with phase two because it's been put on hold, which is an expansion that would help meet future demand for U.S. LNG supplies for Europe, Asia, as well as other global markets. This abrupt, what I consider to be politically motivated ban, brings that project to a screeching halt. Their investors are now encountering a lot of uncertainty. This ban will cost Southeast Texas thousands of jobs and hurt businesses that rely on projects like this. So let me just say, I'm going to turn this page. Let me just say that being here with this as one of our firebrands for what we need to do in Port Arthur, Texas is so important to us. Today, we want to highlight how our great Lamar State College, Port Arthur, has been able to start that program to teach and equip the next generation of LNG workers. These LNG companies have donated money, given scholarships, and partnered with not only local colleges, but local high schools as well. We want to highlight the investments that LNG companies are making to restore marine habitats, improving infrastructure like highways and bridges, not to mention the work they do in community, like donating meals, gifts, and partnering with local groups for local projects. I could go on and on about the positive role these companies play in our community, here at our great Southeast Texas, really indeed in our entire nation. So while this administration and some of my colleagues in Congress are demonizing American LNG without any regard for its countless benefits it brings, I trust that this hearing will serve to bring some reality to them, to highlight what benefits those bring. And it is a reality that American LNG leads to American energy dominance, American jobs, and American leadership overseas, especially at a time when the world seems to be on fire and enemies are moving around everywhere. I want to thank each of the witnesses today for taking time out of their busy lives to share y'all's perspectives with the committee today. And thank you to all the familiar faces in the crowd for being here. Chairman Duncan, I yield back.
Chairman yields back. We have 1/10 of the full Energy and Commerce Committee here today, only 4 members. I'm going to step outside the boundary here and recognize Mr. Griffith for a brief opening statement.
And it will be brief. I like to give my friends from Texas a hard time. I come from Virginia, particularly the western part of Virginia, and we take responsibility for Texas.
I think the gentleman's time has expired.
And
Oh,
I think Randy's heard this story before. I usually give my Texas friends this story. But I have ancestors that are buried with Houston's ancestors in a little cemetery in Rockbridge County, Virginia. I represent Austinville, where Stephen Austin was born. And I have a little town called Rural Retreat where the pharmacist was Dr. Pepper. And his daughter ran off with his assistant and came to Texas. So if you start thinking about Texas, it might not have happened if it hadn't been for people from the western part of Virginia. Now, we're different than those Northern Virginia folks. I just want to make that clear. And I come from an energy producing district, coal and a little bit of natural gas. And, I think about a dozen barrels a month of oil. Not much, but we are the coal producing part of Virginia, and very proud to represent them, and very glad to be with you all today because energy is important to this country across the board, and particularly liquefied natural gas is extremely important in the geopolitical safety and peace prospects for not only the United States, but the entire world. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, point of personal privilege, please.
I yield.
I just want to say we had another great one of our employees come in. Christine Thickman, raise your hand there. So y'all give her a hand, would you?
Thank you for all Congressman Weber and Fletcher's staff that serve the district so well. If we're going to get into Texas, William Barrett Travis was from my district, and I drew a line in the sand.
Oh, good
So
Lord. Are we
God
getting
bless
into
Texas.
everybody's
May God
family
bless the
history?
United States.
I guess I should have mentioned Crocketville then.
That concludes the members' opening statements. The chair would like to remind members pursuant to committee rules, all members' opening statements will be made part of the record. So ordered. Okay. I want to thank all of our witnesses for being here. We came to hear from you, and appreciate you testifying. Our witnesses today are Mr. Thurman Bill Barty, the mayor of the city of Port Arthur, Dr. Betty Renard, president of Lamar State College, Port Arthur, Mr. John Beard, Jr., founder and CEO of Port Arthur Community Action Network, and Mr. Larry Kelly, port director and CEO for the Port of Port Arthur. So per committee custom, each witness will be given 5 minutes for an opening statement, followed by a round of questions from the members of Congress. The light on the timer in front of you, it'll go green when we recognize you, go to yellow when you're starting to run out of time, goes to red, your time's up, and I'll just ask you to wrap up. We can kind of stay on time here. So I'll now recognize Mayor Marti for 5 minutes to give an opening statement. And you can cut the mic on in front of you there.
First, I'd like to say good afternoon to each of you and to this great crowd who are gathered here in the city of Port Arthur, and to this portion segment of the subcommittee on energy, climate, and grid security. At this field hearing, as is stated, I am Thurman Bill Barty, mayor of the greatest city in the state of Texas, which happens to be Port Arthur, Texas, and you are situated in that city as I speak. Now, to the honorable chair and to the members of this committee, I begin this dialogue with a commendable thank you for allowing indulgence from the municipal government, which has jurisdiction where this affected facility is situated. Now, I in no way am here to bash or discredit the Biden-Harris administration on its position on the matter of permitting. However, I do appeal to the said administration to reconsider and subsequently abandon its present course of discontinuance or disallowing the permitting process to go forward. The city of Port Arthur is home to several petrochemical facilities, and we proudly embrace the fact of having the largest of such facilities in North America, and here we even say in the entire world. With such industrial neighbors come the necessity of relational interactions with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, it's known as TCEQ, and even the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. These agencies are trusted within our community to be sure that the air quality we all breathe is not contaminated and able to sustain life. Now, in the past, we have relied on collaborations with these agencies to support the economic stability of our community and the physical health of the citizens who call Port Arthur, Texas, home. As I ponder the significance of this hearing on today with relations to the future economic impact of the LNG industry on our city and in our city, I beg for compromise of the positions of all who are actually authorities in the process at hand. As aforementioned, with the petrochemical industry, the LNG industry is alive and well within the jurisdictional confines of the municipal governance of which I represent. The rush to green concept, as it is being applied to this said LNG supplier, will have a negative impact on the economic growth and stability of the city of Port Arthur. The jobs Port Arthurans have during this construction phase will be compromised negatively if the permitting is continued to be disallowed. The economic impact of businesses supplying materials and goods during this operation will harm families' abilities to continue with specific qualities of life. The negative impact will then spread to the region and ill affect thousands of workers and their families. Committee, I implore you to seek an amicable resolve to the present positions by agencies which have authority to bring about the compromise needed to continue the economic growth for our fair city and provide a living, sustaining, environmentally friendly coexistence of the industrial neighbors with the residents of the city of Port Arthur, Texas. Jobs and the creation of opportunities for families to thrive is the lifeblood of any community. Port Arthur, like any other community, has an obligation to offer to its citizens. This opportunity is made with real supporting opportunities.
I was thinking the same thing, Chris.
By these entities, rather, and bring about
He reminds me of
possibility
like a gospel
for a
preacher.
better quality
Amazing.
of life. Every citizen of Port Arthur does not want the LNG to be non-existent. However, if my time up, I'll get 2 more seconds. Non-existent. However, we want this facility to comply with federal and state authorities on emissions and regulated occurrences at the facility. Doing so, the possibilities of economic stability for the citizens increase. So let us be the community who stands for environmental wellness and economic stability and growth. And now I yield.
Gentleman's time expired. I gave you a little lenience there because you are an elected official as well and you speak for a constituency. Thanks for your words. Dr. Reynard, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you and welcome to Port Arthur. My goal today is to paint a picture of Lamar State College, Port Arthur, and acknowledge the impact of the pause on LNG exports on the college. Lamar State College, Port Arthur is situated in one of the most urban and economically disadvantaged communities in Texas. The per capita income is $24,065 and 27.6% of Port Arthur residents live below the poverty level. The educational attainment of residents also falls far behind national trends. Only 11.4% of residents, for example, have a bachelor's degree or higher, while the national average is 34.3%. Time and again, we have seen that one of the solutions to lift individuals out of poverty is through education. The college offers associate and certificate programs, and considering the industry in the area, it is no surprise that several of the largest educational programs are related to the manufacturing industry. The campus has a diverse ethnic student population and is classified as a Hispanic serving institution. The unduplicated student headcount for the fall 23 semester was close to 4,000 students. Because of its open door policy and the composition of the region, LSCPA enrolls large numbers of educationally and economically disadvantaged students. Student profiles include descriptions such as socioeconomically disadvantaged, academically underprepared, first-generation student, and member of an at-risk ethnic group. The campus also has concerns that too many of our students experience homelessness, food insecurity, and general economic challenges. I frequently describe those challenges by reminding the public that LSCPA students are one flat tire away from dropping out or stopping out of college. Support for LSCPA students is therefore absolutely vital for their success. Over time, Port Arthur has become a premier location for LNG industries due to its strategic location along the Gulf Coast. The impact of the LNG industry cannot be understated. The construction and expansion of the LNG industry contribute to the local and national economy by creating new jobs and generating revenue through employment opportunities, tax revenues, and investments in infrastructure. The LNG industries also routinely support Lamar State College, Port Arthur. Each LNG plant, for example, funds scholarships. Cheniere LNG and Port Arthur LNG recently donated funds to support an EDA grant application by the college. Today, the LNG plants in Port Arthur are under construction, so they do not at this time have interns. However, LSCPA does have interns at some of the petrochemical plants in Port Arthur. Manufacturing interns on average earn about $16 per hour. It's therefore not unrealistic to suggest that future LNG internships would result in full-time positions that pay anywhere from $64,000 to $109,000. Contractors building the Port Arthur LNG plant have also engaged LSCPA to provide craft training. That training not only trains local residents for employment in the industry, but it also provides income to the college. Overall, the LNG industries have dedicated hundreds and thousands of dollars to provide scholarship, equipment, internships, grant support, and training programs. Those donations enhance educational opportunities and strengthen partnerships between academia and industry to benefit students, faculty, and the broader community. Absent those scholarships, students are forced to reduce the number of classes they register for or delay their education altogether. Absent those scholarships, the college would reduce the number of classes scheduled. If continued, programs may close due to low enrollment. Absent training equipment, students would not experience or learn about the real-world worksite provided by equipment. The quality of training and the subsequent workforce would decline. Absent LNG plants that are operational, internships and apprenticeship opportunities for students would surely disappear. Generally speaking, the impacts of reduced industry support would contribute to the low educational attainment and existing poverty in Port Arthur. It is my hope that the information I have provided will help make an informed decision regarding the pause of the LNG exports. Again, I want to thank you for organizing this field hearing, and I'd be happy to answer any easy questions.
Thank you, Dr. Reynard. Mr. Beard, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ranking Member, Congressman Weber, Congressman Griffith, welcome to Port Arthur, and to all of you here, visiting guests and friends. I'd like to thank you for inviting me here today and for coming to my hometown of Port Arthur, Texas. Various policymakers I've spoken to know they have an open invitation to come to this community and to learn firsthand about the impacts LNG is having on our community. First, I'd like to offer prayers and best wishes for a full and complete recovery to Congressman Raul Revolta. I am a proud, lifelong member of Port Arthur and resident, born and raised on the fence line, a 3-term city councilman and mayor pro tem, an ExxonMobil retiree, and I say that unashamedly, with 38 years of service. I am happy to share my firsthand experience with members with regards to the Biden pause on LNG export permits to countries without U.S. free trade agreements. That is more accurately what this hearing should be titled, because President Biden did not propose a ban on LNG as the hearing suggests.
Oh, what could it be?
This
A
pause on a narrow set of permits will give the administration time to evaluate and update the public interest determination for LNG exports.
Settle down, Mr. Beard.
Playing politics and misleading the public about the true nature of President Biden's action on LNG is shameful and disturbing.
Mr. Beard, please
The
tell me the
lives of
difference
communities
between
like mine and those
ban
along the LNG
and
supply
indefinite
chain are
pause.
not something to play with. Port Arthur is a sacrifice zone, a community inundated with decades of pollution from industries that take their profits and leave us with toxic waste, air pollution, and all the health impacts that come along with it. I personally live in the shadow of massive petrochemical and LNG infrastructure where many of you in Washington have never ventured, let alone had to breathe toxic air day in and day out. Further up the fossil fuel supply chain are other frontline communities that suffer from
Please,
the
I live
impact
right
of
near
fracking
Wright-Patterson Air Force
pipelines,
Base. You think I
compressor
don't breathe
stations that are
toxic air?
robbing communities of water while perpetuating unconscionable harms to human health. It is for these reasons that we need the pause, not a ban, it's a pause on the approval of
An
LNG
indefinite
projects.
pause.
This pause will give us time as a nation to fully understand the full impacts of these projects on communities like mine.
We make a
When the
bet on
Department
how
of
many times
Energy
he's going to
makes
say
its
the word
determination
pause.
on the impacts of LNG on communities. This, as we've heard earlier, has never been done before, which is why communities like Port Arthur continue to live with such disproportionate, unhealthy burdens. I want to thank President Biden for taking the time to evaluate this and urge him and Congress to work together to ensure there's a robust and thorough evaluation of the impacts of LNG and other harmful industries before more communities suffer the burdens brought on Port Arthur by fossil fuel industry and their blind pursuit of profits. Communities across the country are experiencing increased frequency and intensity of droughts, wildfires, and other climate change impacts. As a matter of fact, since 2005, Port
from
Arthur has
liquid
seen
natural gas,
5 major hurricanes
obviously.
and at least that many smaller ones, one of which produced the largest rainfall ever recorded in the United States of 68.58 inches. That was Hurricane Harvey. The public interest determination, though, needs to go beyond climate impacts. Many of you on this committee cite the need to support our allies with U.S. LNG, yet our same allies, some of whom I have visited in the European Union and other nations, tell us that they do not want our gas. A letter from over 60 members of the European Parliament points out that Europe does not need more gas that is being touted and implore the Biden administration to again evaluate the impact of LNG on U.S. communities as well as our shared climate. Looking at the public interest is important because of frontline community health impacts, national security, climate, consumer impacts, because exports are inflationary, and also those exports impedes the transition off of fossil fuels to clean, green, renewable energy. Once again, I thank the President and the Department of Energy and ask that they work toward a robust and thorough evaluation of the cumulative impacts of the industry of fossil fuels on communities like Port Arthur in their decision-making. And I urge Congress to not use Port Arthur and other communities disproportionately burdened by the fossil fuel industry as bargaining chips and who are supportive on the pause on LNG project approvals. This pause should not be tied, I say again, not be tied to other critical legislative package and traded away to the benefit of dirty energy's blind pursuit of profits. We in the Gulf sacrifice zone say enough is enough. We refuse to be sacrificed. We are the national interest. Enough is enough. I thank you again for the opportunity to testify.
Gentleman's time's expired. I'll recognize Mr. Kelly for 5 minutes.
Chair and committee, thank you very much. My name is Larry Kelly, and I serve as Port Director, CEO for the Port of Port Arthur, and I can report I live, work, and pay taxes here in Port Arthur. On behalf of our port commissioners who are present and port staff, good afternoon and welcome to our community. I am only one of about 1 million U.S. port workers today that support some 2.5 million U.S. jobs. I'm pleased to see a number of maritime professionals in the room today. Maritime commerce in Texas represents about 25% of the state's GDP. Slowing, pausing, or stopping LNG export permitting will have a direct impact on maritime commerce and jobs. My comments are about jobs, the economy, and security. Our port is located here on the Sabine-Neches Waterway and the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway. Our waterways are the lifeblood of our region. As an operating port, we handle a variety of cargoes, including break bulk, liquid energy, and dry bulk in the form of renewable energy wood pellets for export. We have an active foreign trade zone and engaged in international commerce. As strategic seaports, both Beaumont and Port Arthur frequently handle military cargo. We both move a sizable volume of project cargo. The project cargo movements are specialized capability supporting industrial development like the LNG facilities in Texas and Louisiana, as well as all other forms of energy infrastructure development. In addition to energy, there are a number of other commodities produced on the waterway by local manufacturers and exported globally, attracting billions in domestic and foreign private investment. With combined tonnages, Southeast Texas ranks 5th in the nation and is a net exporter. Texas is number 1 in the nation for maritime tonnage, with exports outweighing imports 3-to-1. In broad economic terms, our waterway and our state contribute to a positive U.S. trade balance with partner countries. Creating barriers to foreign trade will have long-term negative job and economic impacts to our community, state, and nation. For the U.S., having a robust export trade supports domestic energy independence along with jobs and economic vitality. LNG is one of the best examples where U.S. energy exports can support our trading partners and allies through long winters and provide political independence versus obtaining energy from our peer adversaries. Large investments like LNG projects that likely have a design life of 50 years or greater. In all practicality, the infrastructure will exist much longer, providing generational opportunities for local employment. If 100 years seems like a long time, looking around our area where 3 or 4 large job producers have 120 plus years of local history providing energy to the nation and the world. These producers are the local tax base, ultimately supporting schools, roads, clean water, and our local economy. A history that has supported 5 generations of my family. Our region is a complex web of interrelated inputs and outputs for production of energy and products used in our everyday lives. The processes continue to evolve, improve, and innovate, essentially reinventing itself time and time over again. Diversification, innovation, and additional forms of energy are important. LNG is just one part of the story. Stopping or slowing the export effort is like cutting off an arm or a leg of a larger body. One innovation begets another, exampled by Texas leading the way as the largest producer of wind and solar energy. Locally, we are home to a world-scale carbon sequestration efforts and lead the way in renewable future fuel development involving hydrogen, ammonia, geothermal, and biofuel at scale. With several projects under construction, those innovations can only occur because of our existing and continuously evolving energy infrastructure. Our community does face some significant challenges related to employment. Local LNG projects like those impacted by this policy choice will cost 10,000 construction jobs and decades of economic activity for our community. The point is, every job matters in our community, whether it's at the port, a rail yard, pipeline, local industry, or a hospital. A work stoppage will cost jobs and at minimum expose the project approvals to inflated construction costs as well as add risk to the financial decision-making process. In closing, it is about the jobs, it is about the economy, and it's about our security. I ask for your favorable consideration. I'm pleased to answer any questions, and respectfully, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. I want to thank all of you for your testimony. We'll now move into the question and answer portion of the hearing, and let me remind everyone, this is an official congressional hearing. So unlike a town hall, we'll only have questions from members of Congress today, and I'll now recognize myself to start off that period. I'd first off like to address something that the ranking member said. there has been an increase in oil and gas production in the United States, but it has zero to do with the policies of the Biden administration, which started on day one in a war on American energy production by canceling lease sales in this body of water just offshore called the Gulf of Mexico and other federal lands. He stopped the Keystone Pipeline. I can't point to a single policy initiative from this administration that has helped increase oil and gas production in this country. Oil and gas production increase in this country is the result of past administrations, plural. So this may not be a ban, but I can tell you that this LNG export pause will have detrimental impact on future investment. These projects like the project we visited today don't spring out of the ground overnight. They require planning and investment and permitting and years of construction processes and create tremendous jobs. And Mayor, every ship that I see, every tug that I see going up that channel there means economic activity, providing jobs. And every one I've seen is energy related. So Mayor Bartee, you stated in your testimony that the policy of the Biden administration's Rush to Green agenda will have a negative impact on your community. The latest move by the Biden administration is clearly part of a broader campaign to undercut American energy production. Will you expand on the types of jobs that are created by U.S. LNG and how that will impact how they impact your community?
Well, presently, the LNG that has been ill affected with the permitting process, the jobs are construction type jobs that are there as far as I've been apprised. And these jobs now in Port Arthur, I know we don't have every citizen with the proper skill level for each craft that's needed out there, but there are some Port Arthurans who have the skill level, and there are some Port Arthurans who are actually working in the facility now. Now, for future jobs, once completion of the facility has actually gone into force, we would have permanent jobs that hopefully citizens in Port Arthur would qualify for those jobs as well. So the economic impact from a facility such as the one that's in particular right now would be a positive economic shot in the arm, so to speak, for the city of Port Arthur. Now, the other LNGs that are there operating now, there are jobs there, and some craft jobs, operator type jobs, engineering type jobs, mechanical jobs, welders, carpenters, and even other type laborers. Those jobs in those facilities are actually jobs that Port Arthurans have. Now, we don't have, and I don't have at my disposal an actual, I guess, factor as far as the data on the number of individuals who are employed there. But
I'll stop you right there and move on. My time's going to expire. 500 jobs out at Sabine Pass by Cheniere, 500 Zachary contract jobs. That's 1,000 employees. That's 3 shifts, 12-hour shifts. That's a lot of employment. That's just one facility. And it's not counting all the other facilities. Future construction jobs for building out facilities. When I think about energy, I think about 4 key words: production, delivery, utilization, and export. Produce the American resources here that we are blessed with. Transmit or deliver those resources through pipelines to facilities like this, but also to utilities that can provide the power that we take for granted in this country, or the refineries that we saw on the energy corridor to refine that product into useful components that make our lives better, and then export to help our friends and allies around the globe lower their carbon emissions and meet their energy needs, especially at critical times when we're facing uncertainty like Ukraine. Let me ask you this. Are you concerned that the uncertainty created by this LNG export ban, an overall campaign against oil and gas, threatens these jobs and economic development opportunities in this community?
yes, it probably would, because then it would ill affect the ability of that producer of those type goods to be shipped or exported to customers and prospective customers that they actually have on board now. There are some contractual agreements for the future of these facilities and how they will export this product to those other countries.
Those future contracts are in jeopardy if these new permits are paused by this administration, as they have been. My time's expired. I'll now recognize the ranking member, the gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Fletcher, for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chairman Duncan. And I want to thank all of our witnesses today for
Okay,
your
how many times is
testimony.
she gonna say
I
pause
found it
again?
very helpful to hear from you and, of course, to read your full testimony that you submitted before the hearing. And I really think, as I mentioned in my opening statement, that this pause gives us an important opportunity to think about community engagement. And that's something where I think there really have been demonstrated opportunities for improvement, both in assessing the pause, and certainly that's our purpose here today. And so, Mr. Beard, I was hoping that you could talk to us a little bit about how the existing LNG facilities that are currently operating in Port Arthur and those that are in the construction process have engaged with concerned community members prior to and during the construction and operations. And then maybe if you could share with us your thoughts on how folks involved in those entities could do a better job of engaging constructively with members of the community to understand the concerns and the issues and try to find that common ground that you were mentioning.
Thank you, Ranking Member. First of all, I think all of those companies do try their best as far as they know to publicly engage with the community and talk with community members. But it's more of a function of doing the usual thing, going to the Chamber of Commerce, going to other groups and organizations. But they have to do what we say is to go into the bushes, into the weeds, where people really are. Go into the neighborhoods, work with community organizations and the others. Because one thing that we do know is that Port Arthur's chronically high unemployment is not being affected, despite all the number of jobs you mentioned, Mr. Chairman. We are not lowering unemployment here. We haven't for decades. So what's happening? If they're engaging, then why aren't people being hired? The mayor mentions the fact about training, but we don't have a shortage of trained people. I've got names of 25 people or better on this phone right here, and their resumes have education all the way from 2-year associates to master's degrees, but they cannot get an interview or even get a chance to test. Well, how can they be hired? And how also can they be hired when the contractors that come in to this city bring their workforce with them? We have this on knowledge of people who left Port Arthur to come back and get a job, but they will work with another company when that job was over. Hey, why don't you come with us? We're going to be moving to that big project in Port Arthur. So that displaces our workforce. There's not nearly enough being done, because if it were, unemployment figures would change.
Thank you, Mr. Beard. I think that's very helpful for all of us to take back. I think we're going to get a chance to ask more questions. So I want to turn quickly my next question, the time I have left, to Mayor Barti, because in your testimony, you talked about opportunities that are created from these positions. And as we've just heard, maybe more of them could be coming to the citizens of Port Arthur. Do you think that, could you talk a little bit about opportunities?
Oh my God, girl, just spit it out.
To bring these facilities and those who are sort of bringing this development, how the city could work with them, with the operators to improve and mitigate some of the issues that Mr. Beard has talked about?
Yeah, on the job opportunities, I'm going to be correct on what you would like for an answer. There are what we call IDAs that are actually in place with facilities, with industrial facilities, and there are certain numbers of Port Arthurans that are actually asked, or the IDA stipulates a certain percentage of Port Arthurans to be employed during a specific period of time. If they are not according to the IDAs, then there is a penalty fee that particular industrial employer would actually pay to the city for not fulfilling that particular tenet or article in that agreement. Now, futuristically, with the LNGs, and with this one LNG in particular, whenever I came in office in 2019. They were beginning the process. The others were already there, and I visited with them, but those agreements were already in place and functioning. We are hoping that with the present facility that is being constructed and the future of, I think it's the train number 2, I think that's the proper name for it, that we would have a greater number of citizens prepared, even working with Lamar State College, Port Arthur, to help provide citizens with the crafts necessary so that the citizens of Port Arthur would be attractive for employment in these facilities. And again, as I said, if they are not employing Port Arthurans as the agreement says, then there is a penalty that the
you.
company is assessed.
Thank you. I have exceeded my time, so Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back for this
Hurley
round.
yields back. I'll now go to Mr. Griffith from Virginia for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Bernard, for having us at your facility. I appreciate that. And my question to you starts off with looking at workforce development, workforce training. We heard Mr. Beard say that there's a lot of unemployment and that people have degrees. Do you find that they have the right degrees? Have they gotten the right degrees? And are you trying to get them educated in the areas where you anticipate the jobs are going to be tomorrow and today?
So students select, of course, their own degrees and their own career path. They do receive a lot of career counseling on our campus to let them know what some of the opportunities are in this area and in terms of employment. So yes, they do receive guidance and counseling in that. We do have a fairly large educational program that services primarily the petrochemical and the LNG facilities. Right now, we have about 200 majors in those areas. We also we have a fairly large non-credit training program. So we have contracted, for example, with Bechtel, who is the contractor for the Port Arthur LNG to train workforce. So we've done some CDL training for them. We're doing some craft training for them. We've also partnered, or they have also partnered with Nederland High School to start a welding program to make sure that there are opportunities for individuals that participate in those
And I'm going to stop you there because I don't know about this part of the country, but in my part of the country, welding jobs pay pretty good money. Is that true here too?
Yes, sir. They certainly do.
Yeah, yeah. Mr. Kelly, one of the things I found in the coal industry, and of course, we've lost a lot of our coal in Central Appalachia, which I represented part of, the Virginia part of that. But one of the things we found is it's not just the immediate area that benefits from investment. That I mean, 2.5 hours away, you find companies that have invested because they're building machinery or equipment, or they're doing maintenance on equipment that's used in the coal mines. Is that also true at your LNG facilities?
Congressman, thank you very much for the question. And we do find, and prior to working in the port, I was involved in the petrochemical industry as a contractor, a service provider too. And we certainly see spillover effects. And just like if you would follow the path of an economic impact analysis, you have the direct and the indirect, and you have the induced jobs. And we find that happens in our area. We'd certainly like to see more of that. As a port, some of my testimony, I touched on project cargo, and that implies that some of that cargo came from abroad, highly specialized, and brought in here. But we also handle project cargo going export, which means it's derived here locally. And that too has a spillover effect of providing further job opportunities.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. I mean, one of the problems that I've had is that, and one of the problems I have with the pause, and I agree that it's a pause, and people get excited and they call it a ban. They may put it in the title of a hearing
Because
and so
it's an
forth, but
indefinite
it's not a ban on
pause.
already
Do you
existing,
think
but the
they're gonna
pause itself
consider that?
has negative effects, as you testified to.
A
Here's
pause
the-
is
Here's
temporary.
the problem I have. They told us the same thing that they're telling y'all now, is that we're going to take a pause, or we don't need this, and there will be other jobs available. And what my people have discovered, and my district, Dr. Bernard, is similar in economics. I couldn't find exact per capita numbers to match up with yours, but my household income in my district is just over 50,000. That's household income. And we're 409th out of the 435 congressional districts. So it's a economically stressed area as well. What we found is they said you can find other jobs when they got rid of our steam coal. Our met coal's doing fine, but our steam coal jobs, well, there are some other jobs, but the job at the Dollar General just doesn't pay as much as the job in the coal mine at over $100,000 a year paid. Is that the same thing you find with petrochemicals and LNG?
I think if you even look back at Port Arthur's history, and I made mention of our reinvention of ourselves, we've been through periods where there was a massive loss of jobs in the facilities. They reinvented themselves, and you find that there was a movement towards the service sector jobs. And you're correct, they do not pay the same as the core employer. And the job producer that I mentioned had 120-year history. And my friend here and my father and both my grandfathers all worked for that same refinery, that they were able to provide that sustainability for the family. And that core business obviously probably pays higher wages and better benefits. Yes, sir.
All right, I appreciate that. With that, my time is up on this round and I yield back.
Gentleman's time's expired. I'll now go to Mr. Weber from Texas for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Renard, I want to come to you. And as we know, y'all are doing a great job here with the college. And the LNG companies have worked with Lamar State College. Have there been scholarships involved?
Absolutely. There has been some significant scholarships that each of the LNG plants and the petrochemical industries award each year. And in addition to that, we just accepted a big donation of some equipment last week from one of the local companies. So yes, I would say they're very supportive.
Absolutely. And we love hearing that. And in your remarks, excuse me, in your testimony, you said that those interns at the facilities make about $16 an hour. And then you said they have the ability, once they graduate and get out, to make anywhere from $64,000 to $109,000. Did I misquote that?
You did not. That is from the U.S. Bureau of Statistics.
Okay, so those are pretty good jobs.
Yes.
I'm going to go to a little bit different point in discussion. A pause, as we've been talking about it, or as the administration is calling it, has consequences. So let me go through these and see if I can get y'all's agreement. Is it true or false that a pause means no income for construction workers? Is that true?
That was very
I would say
dramatic.
that's true.
If they put it on pause? Mayor? A pause means no income for construction workers when that job is stopped.
No, because it doesn't affect that. A
Mr. Kelly,
pause.
you're saying it
affect
doesn't, Larry?
As my testimony indicated, it provides financial risk, and delayed projects could
Sure.
be a dead project.
Sure.
And so those jobs would not be created.
So let me go step two, back to the college. A pause in that instance, where phase two is stopped because of the uncertainty, they don't know if they're going to be able, how long the pause is going
It's
to
a
last. Whether the
possibility.
investors are going to have their money
Sorry,
there.
that was bad.
If a pause goes on, doesn't it conceivably mean, Dr. Renard, that those same students, after all they've had training and if they've gotten scholarships, they very well may not have a job when they graduate? Is that possible?
That is possible.
Thank you.
Is it possible?
And then I want to do this. As Mr. Kelly said, a pause means less exports from our waterways. Is that
Oh, I
true or
love this so
false?
much.
Yes, sir. That'd be true.
Yeah, thank you. And then I'll go back to the mayor, same question, because we talk about money for vendors, money for contractors, money for students if they got jobs. So a pause means less revenue to the city.
It would, however, now, the pause that I think that that's in question right now hasn't become totally effective. It's not in effect because I think the pause is.
Oh my
for
God,
phase
just like
two,
a
but
foghorn
not-
leghorn
It doesn't
moment.
involve the current work
And he was
that's
like,
going
"You
on.
would,
But
you would
however,
live." I was
the
like,
students
I
that
do,
we
I
are
do declare
educating
in my
now
mind.
in the next 24 months, if this doesn't change, then it will have an ill effect and the negative impact would be upon us.
Well, it does have a pause on those who are looking at investing their money in the market, if you will. And let me give you some factoids about, there may be some disagreement over whether President Biden has a war on energy, But let me say this about the Keystone Pipeline. It was under President Obama when in 2008, when I was in the Texas House, when he came into office. Here's some factoids about the Keystone Pipeline. And as we know, it would come right here into our area. It carries 830,000 barrels of oil a day. We care about the environment also, just like our friends across the aisle and like all of y'all do. We do care about the environment because I have, believe it or not, I've got 3 kids, 8 grandkids, and even a great granddaughter. Okay. It's true, Larry, I'm old. Okay. So the Keystone Pipeline carries 830,000 barrels of product a day. If you took an 18-wheeler that carries around 7,000 gallons and you divided it by a 42 or 50-gallon barrel, that's 140 barrels on an 18-wheeler. Stick with me here. If you divided 140 barrels on an 18-wheeler, 140 barrels of oil, 7,000 gallons of oil, into 830,000 barrels a day, okay, that the pipeline would have brought down to us to continue the refining and continue the jobs and grow our availability to do just that, it would take on a daily basis 5,253 18-wheelers a day to move that kind of product. We care about emissions. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. We have time. We've come all this way, and I know members want to engage in another round of questioning, so we're going to do that. And I recognize myself for 5 minutes. I'm from South Carolina. We're not an energy state other than nuclear power. But I've traveled down in Louisiana and Texas enough to know the impact of energy jobs and energy companies on the local community. Give an example. I traveled from Lafayette down to Port Fourchon in Louisiana. 4-lane highway, business after 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 business on both sides of the highway support what happens offshore. Those are good paying jobs. The impact of those companies, those businesses and their employees on the local community, joining the YMCA and the Chamber of Commerce and going to local churches and tithing and eating at local restaurants and tipping the waitresses. Economic impact of energy jobs and energy sector is huge on a community. And I know you know that, Mayor Bartee. But I want to direct my line of questioning to Dr. Raynard. We know that U.S. LNG creates good paying jobs that lift communities and individuals out of poverty and betters their quality of life. I just mentioned some of the things where it supports the community. I'm a big supporter of technical colleges. I'm a big supporter of small community college and large 4-year universities. You mentioned that students at Lamar State College generally are socioeconomically disadvantaged, academically underprepared, first-generation students or members of an at-risk ethnic group. How critical is the role of LNG and energy industry in general and the college in creating opportunities for those economically disadvantaged? Port Arthur.
It's a 4-letter word, jobs. That is the goal of a good number of our students that enroll at Lamar State College, Port Arthur. Many of them have a specific goal in mind in terms of what they want to do and in fact who they want to work for. And with the increase in LNG facilities in the region and specifically with the Port Arthur LNG facility under construction, they are interested in working in those facilities. And so for our community and for our students that we serve, having those jobs available so that students can graduate and go to work and support their families and the community at large is critical. It's very important.
Thank you for the work that you do there to prepare the young minds for the jobs that should be available and will be available in the future if we have our way. Mr. Kelly, we have the Port of Charleston, and we deepen that port 45 feet, hope to go to 50 for the big container ships. What are the prospects of growth for the Port of Arthur?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And having visited the Port of Charleston, my compliments on their efforts of navigating through the permitting process with Army Corps to see that. We have a deepening project here on our waterway to take us from 40 to 48 feet. And thanks to local leadership of supporting this, We're in year 22 or 23. That was for impact. We're in year 22 or 23 of that project, and they've started the deepening process, and it should take a few more years to get there. So obviously that huge benefit to the movement of tonnage on our waterway. That's certainly growth. The port itself, we're under a $250 million capital expansion plan adding to it. We do handle liquid products. We have, as I mentioned in the testimony, dry bulk and break bulk, and we handle a lot of the products other than just energy. So I think our future is bright on there. I'm often asked about containers, and Charleston is an emerging large container port, and there's a lot of opportunity there. We have some bridge interferences here on our waterway, and we have our neighbors over in Houston that do an outstanding job of handling massive amounts of containers.
Let me just follow up. How does LNG export industry play in your projected growth strategy?
Yes, sir. As the port area, the region, most of these facilities we're talking about are actually at the entrance to the Gulf. So they're, I don't know, 15 miles from here or something like that in a fairly remote area. It supports a greater effort. We have the presiding officer for the Sabine pilots here, and we have the navigation district sponsor here, and it involves waterway commerce. And so if you look at the numbers, if you add Port of Beaumont and Port Arthur's tonnage areas together, we're fifth in the nation. A lot of that tonnage is derived from energy, or most of that tonnage is derived from energy. And LNG will certainly add to that. Where that comes into the process is for stability of maintaining our channel once we get it deep into 48 feet. Certainly adds to the commerce of our waterway. On a typical day, we would sit here in a 24-hour period. You probably see 5 or 6 tankers inbound, outbound, an equal number of bulkers, and probably about 85 tow barges moving up and down this waterway. One way or another, most of them are somehow tied to energy.
Thank you for that. I hope to visit your port one day. My time's expired. I'll now recognize Ms. Fletcher, who has been frantically scribbling over here with a lot of questions. So you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And I do like to make my notes here, and I've made a lot. I can't get to all of them in 5 minutes, but I really appreciate all of your insights. And I want to follow up quickly. We are having a discussion about what the pause means, and I do think there are concerns about an indefinite
Oh my God.
pause.
Oh my God.
And we've heard that from a lot of people for a lot of the reasons that we're hearing today. But I want to make sure that everyone knows that just a couple of weeks ago, Secretary Granholm was in Houston for Sarah Week, and she talked about the pause, and she said that by this time next year, it should be in the rearview mirror. So I think it's
It's
important.
like
for
3
us to
pauses in
take
about 30
the
seconds.
opportunity that we have with this pause to solve some real and demonstrated
4.
concerns that people have raised, and that we think about how we can move forward together. And so, Mr. Beard, I want to come back to you. In your written testimony, you mentioned several issues beyond just employment numbers.
Thank
but
you, Rob.
health
Sorry, there was
impacts
an
and other
ambulance or
concerns
something
and
going
impacts
by.
that people in the community
Thank
have
you so much.
experienced,
It's so
where
nice. And thank you
perhaps
so much
a
for your
community
support and all
benefits
your help. You're
agreement or some
awesome.
other kind of community engagement could potentially be useful. And I think those are the kinds of things we should be talking about now with the pause of how do we engage communities, and what are the kinds of things that we can do to address and alleviate the concerns that you've raised in this process. And so if you could talk a little bit about those issues and how maybe the community members and elected officials and others can work together in these projects and in this process to help address some of those concerns, I think that would be helpful for all of us.
Well, the first thing, going back to what was said earlier about, I think it might have been the chair mentioned traveling through Louisiana and seeing all of those facilities and seeing the effect of that. But I wonder, did he take a moment to stop in those communities and ask about the health effects of those people there that live in Mossville and that live in other communities that are near there that are suffering from the pollution of industries that are already there? They're inland 50 miles. There are no LNGs there. So they're not affected by LNG, but they're affected by the pollution coming from Sasol and some of the larger facilities that have been built there. With regard to what programs happen, we got to go back to the beginning. It starts at the point of extraction out in West Texas in the Permian, where the ancestral and tribal lands of many native peoples is being used, and even those American citizens and people like ourselves whose lands are being taken from them through eminent domain, simply to satisfy this need for oil. You talked about the fact earlier even of these facilities, but there are 25 facilities, some in some form of construction, some are in permitting, but all of them are going forward. Yet we already have at least 8 to 11 of those facilities already built. So where this pause would affect the export and shipment of gas already, with more coming online, which is said to be almost double, if not triple, by 2027, how are we hurting the country or hurting our friends if we're able to export more oil and gas just the same? Makes no sense. Keystone Pipeline, as you mentioned, that's just one of 4 that was affected. The others are still terminating right here in Nederland, Texas, just down the way. So we have to have agreements that start from the beginning of extraction all the way to communities like
what it
Port Arthur.
sounds
It's in
like.
the 95th percentile in terms of air quality. What that means is this: only 5% of cities in the country have worse air than we do. And that air has some of the largest emitters of benzene and other toxins than virtually any place in the country. That's the price we pay. So when you go through these communities, you have to understand and know what they've been suffering for decades, but yet America still depends on them. It talks about the national interest. Well, Texas likes to talk about, as you know, Congressman Weber, seceding
He's
from the
definitely
union.
smarter than Hank.
We haven't done
Sure,
that yet.
I'll give him that.
But we're part of that union, and we're part of Texas. And that suffering continues. And those things have to be considered, those impacts, as well as the community impacts, as well as the lack of jobs. How many of those people that are coming out of your programs at Lamar State College are actually being hired? Who's tracking that? Who's tracking tax abatement, Mayor, to make sure that tax abatement is actually putting those people to work? I want to go back to what, and I'll stop, what President Reagan said. We trust, but we want to verify. Where's the verification? How do we know they're actually putting those people to work? And what jobs are they working in? That's critical. We have to do
be
the
nice.
full
I
measure
know it's
of making
atypical
sure
for
that we
me,
get
but
the
I'm
benefits
trying.
if you're going to have the pain and suffering inflicted by the pollution and all that's happening.
Well, thank you, Mr. Beard. And it sounds to me like some of the things that you're talking about, as you said, are beyond the scope of LNG and involve other industries and certainly existing facilities. But it does seem like this is an opportunity in this process to talk about how we can identify the potential risks and try to work those into agreements going forward, and also continue to address them through other measures that the administration is undertaking at EPA and elsewhere. And
Let me speak to that if you
well,
will.
I've gone over my time. I'm sorry to say. I hope one
Okay.
of my colleagues will give you an opportunity to answer the question, but I have to yield back to Chairman Duncan. Thank
Let's
you.
not.
Chairman Lade's time's expired. I'll now recognize Mr. Griffith for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If Secretary Granholm can see now that the pause should be in the rearview mirror by this time next year, one would suspect that Secretary Granholm, as the Department of Energy, recognizes, I would submit, that that should be in the rearview mirror now. That's a position I believe. I think that she's right. It should be in the rearview mirror, whether it be now or next year, but the sooner the better because of the job impacts. Mr. Kelly, you said that most of your business is tied to energy. Most of those boats going up and down, as we've seen a couple of them go by while we've been sitting here, are tied to energy. But you have other things that come in through the port as well. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm very proud to talk about that. I will not take up all your time, but
Give me just 30
real
seconds.
quick. If you know and enjoy things like Viva, Charmin, Bounty, Cottonelle, we have an import that ultimately becomes Kleenex and paper towels, and it puts a lot of people to work. We also handle, probably for the state, a third of the fence pickets around here. If you have wooden privacy fence around your house, aluminum that goes into manufacturing a door, window frames. We estimated we handle enough forest products to built about 15,000 homes in Texas last year, or Louisiana. And then I mentioned we handle an export commodity of wood pellets. It's a substitute for coal, or goes to the UK. And
I do wood pellets too.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
got
wouldn't
lots
burn
of
these in your
woods.
grill, though. I'll tell you.
No, I'm saying I got them in my district. We
Oh, do you?
We
Okay.
produce
So
wood
you
pellets.
totally understand that component. All this creates jobs, trucking jobs, logistics jobs, longshore jobs here in our community. And then we also export craft liner board.
So here's where I'm going with this. Because of the energy component and the chemical component, you're able to have a thriving port. That helps all these other industries too, yes or no?
we're all interdependent, and it applies to workforce development and everything else.
And so, whatever you're doing there helps these other industries grow. If we want new industries to come in, and that's a decision that y'all have to make. I can't make that decision for you, but you still need to have that vibrant port. Isn't that true? Yes or no? And I'm going to
Yes,
do
sir.
yes or no so I can get through it fast.
Yes, sir.
And, and that port's important. We talk about coal. Now, most of my coal currently runs on Norfolk Southern, but in the north of my district and in the south of my district, the coal runs on CSX, which comes out of the Port of Baltimore. Norfolk Southern goes to the Port of Virginia. Port of Baltimore is out of commission. Are y'all able? It's not going to be feasible to truck the coal down here and ship it out. But is it feasible for you all to pick up some of the Port of Baltimore's slack while they're having a hard time?
So the reality, it's like a large body, and it's a finger that's been cut off of our nation, and those flows move into other areas. And we've certainly experienced that. There was a vessel that's behind the bridge, essentially, that was canceled, and it'll be resubmitted by another vessel through here. And we have seen, I mentioned the eucalyptus pulp. It's been redistributed, probably maybe even down to Charleston or some other ports, Jacksonville, on that, maybe as far as east as Mobile. And you touched on something, sir, that's absolutely correct. It's the inland movement of the freight that really adds the cost. And having CSX or Norfolk Southern, for us, we're now served by the CPKC, which originally KCS. All very true.
Yeah. And so when you put a pause on expanding the opportunities here in a particular area, it has a ripple effect that could even affect the deepening of the port, as I think somebody else mentioned, or the channels to the port.
Without a doubt, sir, just like hurricane impacts that we may have, it ripples through the various ports and disrupts the economic cycle. The other big provider that we provide for is military service, and we're certainly an important and relevant, both Beaumont and Port Arthur, to the movement of military goods. All those have effects. It's a system. It's a system of systems. It may not be complex, but it is complicated. and so we certainly serve as one part of that.
All right. I appreciate it very much, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Chairman yields back. I'll now go to Mr. Weber for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to talk about something that we discussed later, where the great colleges, as they're getting scholarships and they're teaching students how to have a living wage and come out and do jobs. And then I think the remark was made, well, yeah, but a lot of these constructions come and they bring their own people with them. And so they go on to the next job and they take their people with them. And I know this is maybe a little bit small, pinpointed example, but my beautiful bride grew up in Nederland, Texas. Mr. Beard, when I tell people that, they say, she's a bulldog. And I say, you know her. Yeah. And so her dad worked here. Actually went through LIT, but Dr. Renardi and I've talked about that. I graduated in 54, I think. So they were from here. Well, he took a job over in Texas City. Okay. They moved to Texas City, and that was the greatest thing that could have happened to this old country boy right here, because I met her at Alvin Junior College in 1974. So people can take their skills and they can move. It's a good thing that we're teaching skills. It gives people options. I want to make that observation. Now I'm going to go over to the Sabine Neches Waterway. Our Great Sabine Neches Navigation District is here, and we appreciate their help. We're talking about dredging out the waterway, Mr. Kelly, as you know, working on that project for a while. And so what y'all need to know is all of the funds and the money that has been provided from industry here that has gone into this Southeast Texas. They actually, Sabine Neches Navigation District has been able to up their local sponsor amount. Normally, the federal government is looking to clean out waterways and stuff. And by the way, Sabine Neches Waterway is the second largest waterway in the Gulf of Mexico, second only to the Mississippi River. And so Mr. Kelly's right. We move more military personnel and equipment out than any other country any other port in the country, for that matter. But what has happened here is that they've increased their local share sponsorship to 40% to encourage the federal government to go ahead and dredge out Sabine Neches Waterway. So we're working on that, and it's important, very, very important, because of all of the commerce it does. And so any pause in the commerce, and even though you think about, well, Secretary Granholm said that, this time next year, the pause will be over. She's I guess she's pushing that theory. We don't know that for a fact, but here's the fact. The pause will cause some consternation on industries and people who are looking for jobs and doing things. That's just a fact. People like certainty. Companies like certainty even better. It's what makes them roll. So I want to get that out of the way. And Ms. Kelly, I'm going to come back to you on our great Sabine Nature's waterway. In your testimony, you highlight that Texas leads the way in wind and solar. And also that, for those of you who may or may not know, this community boasts the largest carbon capture, sequestration, and storage facility in the country, maybe in the world for that matter. And I'll give President Obama credit because under his leadership, that was one of the projects that was done under the AIR, American Reinvestment Recovery Act, in 2010, I think they opened up. I'm going way back now. So this is not necessarily about dinging administrations because I think we all work together. Now, all that to say that we move out a lot of, I think, wind projects, windmills. Talk to us, Ms. Kelly, if you will, about exactly what kind of other cargo y'all move out.
Yes, sir. And I'll tell you, I'll broaden a little bit about the Texas Gulf Coast because everybody brings a little something different to the table. And you've heard, sir, that if you've been to one port, you've seen one port. And so we all do a little bit different. But some along the Gulf Coast, I know Galveston and Freeport and Corpus and Brownsville all handle a lot of wind energy components. Most of those are brought in from overseas. And Texas, as I mentioned earlier, is the leader in energy production by wind. Most of that's all up in the Panhandle. And if you've made that long drive to Lubbock or somewhere like that, you have an hour to stare at them as you may feel like you're not going very fast. That's where a lot of those components are going. They're also going up into Colorado, Kansas, and then there's another segment up towards Iowa and even Wisconsin and parts of Illinois where wind energy components move through. And that's the project component where we handle a lot of heavy, big, wide things that help make the industry go. They'll handle project components for things like wind energy construction.
Well, thank you. And I want to simply say that I appreciate all of y'all being here. And this is the great Southeast Texas. For my colleagues, I call this the folks who live and work and play here, the salt of the earth. And I've got 7 seconds left. So, Mr. Chairman, if I can keep it going for another 2 or 3 seconds, I will yield back. And by golly, I do.
By golly.
Thank you, gentlemen. Gentlemen's time's expired. Let's take the opportunity to thank all of our witnesses for being here today. Members may have additional written questions for you, and I'll remind members they have 10 business days to submit additional questions for the record. I ask that witnesses do their best to submit responses within 10 business days upon receipt of the questions. I ask unanimous consent to insert in the record the documents included on the staff hearing documents list. Without objection, that'll be the order. And without objection, this committee will stand adjourned.
All right, hold on. Let me get rid of this. There we go. Yay! I didn't take myself off the screen today. Hooray! So exciting. Okay, well, kind of the same stuff that we've heard before. The Republicans talking about, well, we need the stuff. You're costing people money. You're costing jobs. You're costing all kinds of stuff, Mr. President Joe Biden, by this indefinite pause. And the Democrats just hammering it home that it's a pause. Though I did appreciate the Republicans sort of making fun of that. Mr. Weber, is that what his name was? Who would pause. That was Ralphie walking dramatically. And then take another pause. It was great. Yeah, it's not a pause if it's indefinite, first of all. That's just stopping it. I don't know what they consider pausing, but pausing is temporary because then you have to start up again. If it's indefinite, that's just stopping it. It's just stopping it. It is a pause. Yes. We were having a lot of fun with the word pause in the chat. So thank you guys so much. That's why you got real quiet. You just pause. And then I better start talking again. Yeah, that might be those hot winds that the other guy, what was his name? Mr. Kelly, I think it was. Yeah. Mr. Kelly was talking about those hot winds. They were downwind from Mr. Weber. So, about typical for a congressional hearing. So, it is what it is, right? Oh my gosh. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. So this should be yeah, that is a very, very excellent point. Thank you, R3D. It must be a very daunting task traveling around trying to defend this administration's policies. Yeah, I know. I think about that too sometimes. And I'm just like, to a certain extent, I'll give it to the Democrats. They stick with this BS through and through. They don't deviate. That's one thing they're better at than the Republicans. The Republicans will argue with each other. They don't care. The Democrats, cohesive. Like they stick to it. They don't argue. They just, at least if they do, they don't do it publicly. And they stick to this line of BS that Biden has them talking about. It is crazy. Typical buffoonery. Agreed. That seemed fast. Yeah, that's because there was only four Congress people there. So they didn't have the typical, big committee. So this one was in Texas. It was a field trip. So talking about LNG. So there were only 4 of them. So they didn't have the numbers that they usually do to ask all of the questions. Veronica's very safe about very clear how safe El Paso is. It's very safe. It's safe because it's on the border. This fucking here. Okay. Anyway, yeah, Veronica, 100% bad. They are. That is one thing that the Republicans need to learn from the Democrats is like, I just want to don't you want to get them all in a room and just be like, get your shit together. Just agree on something. Please, for the love of God, come out and look cohesive. You're killing us here. You're killing us. It's like they actually believe the bullshit, brainwashed. I don't think they believe the bullshit, but I think they want Democratic voters to believe the bullshit, which unfortunately a lot of them do. It is really crazy. But they do this technique where they repeat, and you saw what's her face, the girl that kept saying pause like every 5 seconds. It's a pause. No, it's just a pause. But let's talk about the pause. Now, when we're referring to the pause is simply just a pause. They do that purposefully because they know that if they repeat over and over and over again, it's going to become like a little brain worm, right? And it's going to get into your head. And those people that tend to think in more democratic terms or democratic ways will take that and run with it. So that's why you see, like, if you watch the news or watch even like just segments of the news, and you'll see the very, very democratic channels, right? They all say the same things. Like, remember I did that show about where they were all calling Trump Hitler, right? He's as bad as Hitler. He's worse than Hitler. And everybody on X was just, that was everything. Throwing Hitler. That was all they were saying. And then I can't remember what the next one was. But anyways, they go through these cycles, right? And now, just watch. Because now what I heard over the weekend was them saying on the news channels that it's the cult of Trump, right? They had the cult already, but now it's down to like the religion of Trump. And Trump is calling himself the second coming of Christ. And, the Republicans are worshiping Trump. So just watch. You're going to see that on social media. The Democrats are just going to start parroting that. They're going to be saying I already had someone say I worship Trump. I was like, dude, I think you're retarded. I don't know what else to say to you. Like, what? Yeah. There's no arguing. There's nothing. And for those of you that don't like that word that I just said, retarded, first of all, I lived in Massachusetts for a while, and it's just like common vernacular there. It's wicked retarded. Second of all, you're on the wrong channel if you're that easily offended. Just want to say that. Yes. Democracy, right? Which is what we're going to do here is republic, right? Thank you. Yes, guys, you got it. Yeah, they always say it's destroying the democracy, right? No, we're going to counter that. It's a constitutional republic. We're going to reclaim the republic or we got to rebrand it something. Insurrection. Yeah, exactly. They do, right? You've seen it. You guys, I know you guys have all seen it. And then I heard a new nickname for her, Camel Harris. She's AKA Bob Marley. Oh God. They're gonna be the slogan for the channel. We all have a little tard in us. The Wicked Republic. Yes. That would be a great name for someone in Massachusetts. That's awesome. Oh my God, that's great. The Republicans can do better than Trump. They should run a hardworking American. You know what? Okay. Here's the thing. Like, is Trump perfect? No. Is he human? Yes. Right now, with the state of the economy that Biden has just completely fucked over, even though he's trying to tell you and make you believe that it's wonderful. We need a good businessman, right? We need a good businessman coming in. And, at least Trump's entertaining. Let's give him that, right? The guy is hilarious. He's funny. And that's who we have, right? That's who we have right now. So again, we got to come together and just say, hey, this is who we're working with. Okay, back him. What are you going to do, right? Who are you going to vote for? Joe Biden? Not vote? No. Then you're just, giving away your vote. So Joe is wicked retarded. 100%. Yep. Yep. You guys are just all saying retarded now in the chat. Oh my God. A hardworking American man that should have the president doesn't want the job. Yeah, no. It definitely takes a certain personality to be a president, right? I don't think the libertarians have anyone right now, do they? I haven't heard of them having anyone. As far as I heard, they don't have anyone. And I know what is it, the other the no name party, which is like the dumbest name. They don't they said we're out for this election. We don't have anything. So, but anyways, yeah, I don't mind Trump. I think Trump is hilarious. I think he did a really good job while he was president. And we need someone who isn't afraid to make tough decisions. And here is the one thing that I really like about Donald Trump as far as global politics is concerned. He's unpredictable. That's a very good thing when it comes to dealing with other countries, because they don't know, right? They don't know what to expect from him. We've heard the story about how Trump told Putin, if you invade Ukraine, I'm dropping a nuke on Moscow. And I'm sure Putin was kind of like, yeah, right. But there was that little bit, even if it's 1% of him, like, he might. Guy's a little crazy. You need that little bit of crazy. You got to have the rest of the world afraid of you a little bit, right? Anyone think little Kennedy has a shot? No. There are things about Robert Kennedy that I like. There are things about him that I dislike, but I really dislike his VP pick. She's way too liberal, just like far left. And I think he screwed himself over with that pick, which is unfortunate because I think he had the possibility to do fairly well, but I don't think he would have gotten elected because I think the Democrats have done way too much damage for him. And he doesn't have the standing that Trump does. So no, I don't think Kennedy's going to go anywhere, unfortunately, which, like I said, is fine also, because there are a lot of things about him that I don't like. And there are some things that are like contradictory. Like I've heard people say he's anti-gun, but then I also heard him say in an interview, like, I'm not going to touch your guns. I have no desire to touch your guns. I'm not taking anybody's guns away. We'll see. He's saying Kennedy's pick was too wicked far. She was far left. Far left. Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Kennedy is helping Trump by taking voters away from Joe. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't want Joe Biden, and there's a lot of people that voted for Joe who are seeing just how shitty of a job he's doing and don't want to vote for him. So they're either going to vote for Kennedy, or if they see the light and understand that Donald Trump is not the devil, they might vote for Trump, or they won't vote for anybody, which is fine because then again, they're not voting for Biden. So yeah, it's fine. I'm fine with it. It's understandable why Kennedy might be a little anti-gun as president. Yeah, I suppose so with his family history. But yeah, from what he said, and now I've heard other people say otherwise, but from what he said in the interview, he was like, "No, I'm not going to take anybody's guns away." What is Rob saying? Other countries fear Trump, which for me is a good thing. Nobody takes us seriously with the current play. Yes, exactly what I was saying, right? You need that little bit of crazy where they're just kind of like, he might do it. He might do it. Let's play nice, right? And he's also, I think this is where his business background comes into play because he's okay with saying, no, that's not acceptable. I don't like those terms. I'm not working with those terms. No. That's what you need, right? That's what you need. He takes away from Trump also, though. You're right. He does. He does. You've seen him say both. Yeah, I haven't watched enough of him, honestly, to really notice. I wasn't going to be voting for him anyways, but it's bad when the Canadians limit their public appearances with Joe. Joe is just a joke. I mean, like you said before, it's sad, actually. They have him all propped up like Weekend at Bernie style, eating his ice cream and like Jill just shuffling him around. Come on, Joe. Getting his coat on and off for him. The poor guy has to have his special orthotic shoes because he's tripping. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's the devil. But at the same time, like, let the guy just go rest. God, quit pumping him full of amphetamines and let him go eat some ice cream and just enjoy his last years. Oh, love of God. Seriously. Right? Like, it's a little bit bad. Yeah. Weekend at Joey's. Yeah. The time when Trump had on a TV set when he ordered the terrorists be taken out of China was seen by China and the president, seen by the Chinese president and scared China. Good. I want other countries to be scared. Like you have the president of Mexico trying to extort the American government. That's bullshit. Bullshit. No, sir. No. That to me was just like just icing on the cake. Like, wow, Mexico's trying to extort us. That's how people think about us. Yeah. Couldn't even talk about a bridge without a teleprompter. I know. Because he took the train over it, even though it never had train tracks. Oh, well. Oh, Joe. I really hope he doesn't get elected. I really hope so. Anyway. Oh, Gavin Newsom is the worst. We've talked about him. So, yeah, he's terrible. Terrible. That's my fear is he's going to be the like last minute replacement for Joe on the Democratic ticket. They're going to like slide Gavin Newsom in there last minute. So you can't get as much dirt about him and the like ridiculous Democrats who don't do any work and don't do any homework are going to be like, oh, wonderful. Oh, he's full of pep. Let's vote for Gavin. Gavin will 100% take your guns away. 100%. In all fairness, he might have ran a train over. He might have. That is true. Oh, SoCal, you say you doubt there's even an election. I mean, that's another possibility too, right? Isn't that amazing how the party that claims that, this and that and everything is, a danger to democracy, democracy is at stake here, are the ones doing the most damage to the democratic process. Yeah. I had that thought too. I was like, What if they purposefully start World War III so then he can pull a Zelensky and say, well, we're in the midst of a war. I don't think it's a great idea to have an election right now. Let's hold off so we have the stability while in the midst of war. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him. I think they'll do pretty much anything. The Democrats will do anything to stay in power. Don't doubt it. 100%. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with me. And yay, Congress is back. So supposedly, let me see if I see anything else about it really quick. Mike Johnson is supposed to be sending over the Mayorkas impeachment, the articles of impeachment, over to the Senate. And hopefully, I don't see anything just really quick, but like hopefully they're supposed to be doing maybe the trial, the hearing in the Senate this week, possibly as early as Thursday. So that should be interesting. So I'll keep my eyes out for it. I'll let you guys know. And yeah, then we'll just keep going and we'll find something fun tomorrow. I'm kind of waiting because I just have a feeling there's going to be some last minute things that pop up this week. So I'm waiting until the mornings to really see what else is coming up. Because I just have this feeling that stuff is going to be popping up. So maybe not, but supposedly the impeachment trial might be happening this week, which would be pretty crazy. So super interesting. Do I think it's going to do anything? Absolutely not. It's a Democratic run Senate. I don't think it's going to, they just don't have the votes to pass it. But I mean, you know, I still think it's worthy to put that out there and just say, this guy really sucks. Really sucks. Yeah. My money is on another border rush. Yeah. My money, unfortunately, is on a terrorist attack in the U.S. I think I like yours better. Call it Operation Taco Bell. Yeah. Run for the border. Gotcha. Yep. I like yours. Yours is a little more upbeat. So we'll end with yours instead of talking about mine. Oh, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me as usual. I had a great time hanging out with you all. And I'm going to have Eggy Smalls, the patriotic chicken. Oh, I made a new one. You guys want to see? I think I only have a small version of it. It's so one of my other chickens, her name is Ozzy. And anytime we talk about guns, we're going to have Uzis with Ozzy. Let me see. Did I load it up? Hold on. I might be able to load it up really quickly and see if you guys can see it. It'll only be like, you know, up there in the corner, the brand. Oh, why does it look so small compared to the other one? Oh, dang it. All right. I'll get it set up for tomorrow and then I'll show you guys Uzis with Ozzy. It's amazing. I'm so excited. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a t-shirt. It's awesome. You know what? Hold on. I think I had another. No, that was a different version. So I'll show you guys tomorrow. I'll get it all set up and show you guys tomorrow. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And I will see you tomorrow. I hope you have a wonderful night and hope you all had a wonderful eclipse day. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Scattering leaves, the days go, dragging us along like ragdolls. Make these moments move faster. It's our latest disaster. There's no place I'd rather be anyway. This will do for a while. Gather your thoughts so we can run away from it all and ease our minds. We'll try to make it all matter. Pave the way for the shattering to be here for a while. Try to make it all matter. Pave the way for the shattering of youth. Promise our real lives not far behind. Leave nothing to chance and we will not find. Still I'd like to be here for a while. Still I'd like to be here for a while. Scatteringly as the days go, dragging us along.